MAGA Republicans are reacting to Donald Trump's guilty verdict by demanding retribution while also claiming that it will actually help him win the election. But new polling suggests otherwise. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Donald Trump is now a convicted felon after he was found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records to hide a hush money payment to an adult film star in order to defraud voters during the 2016 election. There's not a second part to that. I just like saying the words, you know? Donald Trump is a convicted felon, and that's just a fact. It's not an exaggeration. It's not an ad hominem attack. It's true words. You know, fans of Trump often criticize a show like this one, saying the entirety of the material is Orange Man bad. Orange Man, not just bad, Orange Man convicted by a jury of his peers. Orange Man month bad? Yes. Orange Man have bad month. Now, obviously, having the standard bearer of your political party facing down the prospect of imminent jail time after a felony conviction seems like less than ideal news, but Republicans have been consoling themselves by claiming that actually this will help Trump.
It's a travesty, and politically, I think that's going to help President Trump.
So he's clearly going to use this to his advantage rhetorically on the campaign trail. Thinks it helps. How do you see it?
It does.
This helps Donald Trump.
This conviction just secured Donald Trump being our 47th president on November 5th.
Did they awake a sleeping giant here?
They really did. It has been a big backfire, like the exploding cigar.
And it's like a lot of things that they've tried over the last 7 or 8 years. This is going to backfire. When you're in the media center of New York, this seems like the center of the universe. But if you're out there and you're going to a coffee shop in North Dakota this morning and you're a farmer that got up and you drive 10 miles to go to town to have coffee at 5 in the morning before you go back and farm by yourself all day, you know, if it's the big trial, you'd be like, guilty or innocent. This morning, they're like, what was the crime? What was this all about?
That was North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, whose name sounds like a curse word a farmer would use if a horse got loose. Who left the gate open? Doug Burgum! So let me get this straight. You guys think New Yorkers are out of touch, yet you're the one who thinks farmers go 10 miles into town for coffee every morning? Yep, just can't get on my John Deere until I've had my triple shot extra foam macchiato and a couple of cake pops. What do you mean? What do you mean they're out of cake pops, Doug Burgum? I am certain farmers have coffee makers. They also have TVs and computers. This isn't 12th century medieval Europe. Have you been to a farm lately? They have robots that milk the cows now. You can control it via Wi-Fi from your tablet. In fact, every time you fill a milk bucket, you get a bonus life in Candy Crush. But my favorite example of MAGA weirdos claiming the guilty verdict would just make Trump stronger came from Fox host Jesse Waters, who chose a very bizarre analogy.
Democrats think locking up Trump locks up America first, but it doesn't. Makes it stronger. You ever see the prison bodies on inmates?
What an interesting question that I hope you've never asked within 500 feet of a school. No, I have. Have you? In what circumstance did you see the prison bodies on inmates? It's not great when your pro-Trump talking points sound like the 5th most popular search on Pornhub. Also, there's no way in hell Trump would ever get swole. First of all, he's a 77-year-old man who would be starting from less than scratch. The only workout he's ever done is when he lifts those 2 invisible dumbbells. That's what it looks like when you do jumping jacks with 0-inch vertical. And also, prison's not like Ozempic. It's not a prescription you take that gets you in shape. You still have to do the exercise. What are you guys talking about? Are you thinking about J.K. Simmons and Oz? Because that's a TV show. He didn't get buff in prison. He got buff in real life. Look at this dude. The J.K. is short for jacked. Forget Hunter Biden. If anyone should be in court on gun charges, it's this dude. But I'm not here to do a closer look on how jacked J.K. Simmons is. But if the news could just slow down for a day, I will. This man is 69. He could crush me like a tin can. MAGA world is so weird and pathetic. They spend their time fantasizing about Trump emerging from prison with the bulging lats and six-packs, because you know my boy Trump's skipping leg day. If he ever did start lifting weights, he'd end up looking like a mismatched action figure with a G.I. Joe top and a Mr. Potato Head bottom. We didn't make that. We stole it from Jesse Waters' vision board. So the GOP position is that voters are too dumb or disinterested to care about the verdict, and also that if they did care, it would actually make them more likely to vote for Trump. And on both counts, early data suggests they're very wrong. First, interest in the trial skyrocketed once the verdict was announced.
Throughout this entire trial, I've been looking at the numbers, and Americans really didn't seem to care that much, right? But yesterday, something very different happened. So take a look here. Google searches for Donald Trump up, look at this percentage, up 3,233% at the time of conviction versus the hour before, Kate. Americans were really interested in this verdict. This reaches the Google searches for Trump a post-presidency high on Thursday. So Americans might not have been interested before, but they were definitely very, very interested in this verdict on Thursday.
And that's not to mention the increase in Trump Googling, does jail make you strong by magic? So Americans are now taking an interest in Trump's guilty verdict, and early polling suggests that, shockingly, being a convicted felon is actually not a political asset.
50% of Americans in our poll with Ipsos say that they think this is the right verdict. Only 27% saying they don't think it's the correct verdict, the right outcome. And almost half of the country thinks that Trump should actually end his campaign based on just this. And it's more striking if you just look at those who dislike both President Biden and former President Trump, the so-called double haters who could be so critical in this election. Among those voters, 65% think this was the right verdict, and 67%, two-thirds, think that he should actually end his campaign.
More than half of all independents, 52%, believe the jury reached the right conclusion, and they think it should end Donald Trump's 2024 campaign. Those numbers are even higher among so-called double haters, who are voters with unfavorable opinions of both Trump and President Biden.
So more than half of independents say Trump should drop out, which is bad for Trump. But also there's now an entire new group of voters called double haters, which feels like it's just bad for America. George, we polled every major voting group, double haters, nose holders, and the who cares, nothing matters anymore. Seriously, can you imagine the five-alarm storm Democrats would currently be having if a poll result said more than half of independents wanted Joe Biden to drop out? They'd desperately be trying to lure Joe Biden out of the White House by telling him there's free ice cream across the street and then replacing him with Obama and a pair of aviators, just hoping no one noticed. It's me, Joe Biden. I'm not kidding around. I took the Amtrak here. No joke. No joke, Jack. But Republicans are not reacting to the verdict with introspection and wondering if they have the right candidate. In fact, they're having the opposite reaction. They're demanding immediate retribution against Democrats.
This weekend, Republican Senator Marco Rubio, he tweeted, "Fight fire with fire."
It's a terrible, terrible path that they're leading us to. And it's very possible that it's going to happen to them.
Is every House committee controlled by Republicans using its subpoena power in every way it needs to right now? Is every Republican DA starting every investigation they need to right now?
President Biden should just be ready, because on January 20 of next year, when he's former President Joe Biden, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Right now, today, we should be voting to impeach Joe Biden. Oh, but no, none of that is happening up here in Washington, D.C., because Republicans continually have their head up their ass.
You might be angry about that, Marjorie, but the head and assers are still one of Trump's most reliable voting blocs, along with chaos lovers and people who hate him but hate paying taxes more. So why are you all freaking out? I thought this was a gift. I thought this was all going to backfire and the Democrats awoke a sleeping giant. Besides, based on your logic, the worst thing you could do is send Joe Biden to jail, because you know he'd be coming out jacked. He and Hunter will be over at the bench press just crushing reps. He won't even need aviators anymore because he'll get them tattooed on his face. That looked better than I thought it would. I kind of think you should do it. Also, this isn't even new. Republicans have been promising payback and retribution for years. They wanted Hillary locked up in 2016, Biden locked up in 2020. They already started drawing up plans to use the Justice Department to get revenge months ago. They've been making these threats for years. They're just freaking out and losing their minds. Last time I was this agitated, I was online looking at
the prison bodies on inmates.
It was somebody had opened on my computer. This has been A Closer Look.